What's up, y'all? My name is Ray. To those of you stopping by for the first time, welcome. And to my returning viewers and subscribers, I am humbled to welcome you back to the channel for another video. So I'll readily admit, after the relative success of my last video, which for a nobody like me felt like hitting the lottery, I was more than a little trepidatious about what kind of video I'd make next. Will I be able to find something that inspires within me the kind of passion that makes content watchable? What I'm doing here isn't spectacular or exciting. It's mostly serious with maybe a touch of irreverent humor. So it needs to have passion poured into it. You need to know and to feel that I care about what I'm talking about in order for you to care about what I'm saying. And with me not being an actor by any stretch of the imagination, it's not like I can just fake it or phone it in. I need something to inspire that passion in me. And of course, I only have a handful of videos worth of experience to draw upon. So I thought about some of the common threads that run through the small portfolio of work I've put together so far, and felt that right-wing disingenuousness really stuck out as the topic that made me feel most earnestly and emotionally invested in the points I was making. People being intellectually dishonest, intentionally ignoring nuance and oversimplifying things, basically playing stupid to avoid contradictions to their victim narratives and inferiority complexes. It all just makes my eye twitch. And, well, who's more disingenuous and aggravating than right-wing troll Ben Shapiro? So I go to his YouTube channel, 5 million subscribers, a truly mind-boggling number for somebody with such a repulsive persona, and start scrolling through recent uploads. It didn't take long before a video titled Oprah's new series griping about white privilege caught my eye, and sure enough, it's abhorrent and was a very annoying reminder of why I typically avoid his content altogether. But because I want to do my little part in calling out conservative BS, and he's about as apt an example of right-wing disingenuousness as exists on this planet, we're going to briefly review his petulant little rant here, call out the particularly dishonest bits, and there are some doozies, and use them as a general framework for a little discussion about American history, the New York Times' 1619 Project, and, of course, disingenuousness in political discourse in general. So, right off the bat, calling it Oprah's new series griping about white privilege is obviously intentionally provocative and belittling. What Shapiro is alluding to here is a new 6-part docuseries set to release on Hulu January 26th, titled The 1619 Project, based upon the same named New York Times journalistic production led by Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones. Now I'm going to levy my own little criticism here and say that I think Hulu should have given the series a name of its own, but sadly no one asked me. So both the New York Times production and the Hulu series based on it are simply titled The 1619 Project, and I'll do my best to make it clear to which I'm referring as we go through the video. Let's start with the broadly scoped New York Times production, which includes a number of long-form essays, poems, podcasts, a book, and an educational curriculum complete with accompanying support materials. The New York Times website describes it as such: an ongoing initiative that began in August 2019, the 400th anniversary of the beginning of American slavery. It aims to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of our national narrative. So, as you might imagine, conservatives vehemently oppose the entire 1619 Project in all its forms, especially the school curriculum, and so Ben Shapiro describes it thusly.
Speaking of entertainment media providing us with false and ridiculous narratives, particularly on race, Hulu is bringing the 1619 Project to the air. Ooh, are you excited? So apparently it's going to be a fictional series, since the actual series itself is fictional. The 1619 Project, written by the ridiculous pseudo-journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones, a piece of fiction about how America is historically and systemically racist and impossible to cure, and how everything in America is rooted in racism and slavery. That is now being turned into a series by Hulu.
A false and ridiculous race narrative written by a pseudo-journalist? What a mean-spirited gremlin, I swear. First of all, Nikole Hannah-Jones is not a pseudo-journalist. She has a very impressive career resume, which we won't exhaustively cover here, but just to give you some highlights, Hannah-Jones's career includes time spent working for the Raleigh News and Observer, the Oregonian, ProPublica, the Kerner Commission, the Institute for Advanced Journalism Studies, and of course the New York Times. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner, a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, a 2-time NAACP Image Award winner, and a recipient of the MacArthur Genius Grant. Suffice to say, a pseudo-journalist she is not. Put some damn respect on the woman's name. Secondly, this right-wing obsession with the 1619 Project is both disingenuous and dangerous. Disingenuous in that most of the right-wingers who are belligerently hating on this are educated and intelligent enough to know that they're being dishonest about the intent and the content of the project, and dangerous in that it further exacerbates a politicized white victim narrative that is currently poisoning our society. Shapiro also isn't a fan of one of the Hulu series' other executive producers.
This particular ridiculous series is going to be executive produced by her and Oprah Winfrey. Oh, goody goody gumdrops.
You know, I could have just told you it was Oprah, but I really wanted to keep that goody goody gumdrops thing in there. I swear, if this dude was anything other than a right-wing troll, you'd have never heard of him because he is insufferable to listen to. Oh, and Oprah was executive producer on Academy Award Best Picture nominees Precious and Selma. Put some damn respect on that woman's name, too. All right, let's learn a bit more about the miniseries, reading from Hulu's press release. Quote, the 6-part limited docuseries hosted by Nikole Hannah-Jones is a Lionsgate production in association with One Story Up Productions, Harpo Films, and the New York Times. The 6 episodes, titled Democracy, Race, Music, Capitalism, Fear, and Justice, are adapted from essays from the New York Times #1 best-selling The 1619 Project, A New Origin Story, and examine how the legacy of slavery shapes different aspects of contemporary American life. All right, next let's watch the Hulu trailer for the 1619 Project. See what y'all think.
They say our people were born on the water. Like nothing had existed before.
The New York Times published
The 1619 Project.
The legacy of slavery.
We were told by virtue of our bondage, we could never be American. But it was by virtue of our bondage that we became the most American of all.
Let me pause here to editorialize a bit on that last phrase, the most American of all. I saw some very negative comments focused on that phrase. People apparently taking it as adversarial or competitive, like it was meant to suggest that Black Americans are more American than, say, Native Americans or, white people. Now, I do find it difficult to not assume that these people are intentionally misinterpreting in order to manufacture a grievance. Nevertheless, I do feel obliged to briefly retort. To me, the most American of all in this context meant the most American someone can be, quintessentially American. African Americans, by virtue of their bondage, became the most American Americans an American can be. And sure, that's absolutely a sentiment I would be proud to stand by. African Americans are every single bit as American as anyone else, and their historic struggles to be free, to rise above, and to carve out a place for themselves in this world exemplify the qualities we respect and value most among ourselves as a people and as a nation. So not only do I not have a problem with the 1619 Project using the phrase, the most American of all, I think it's appropriately and poignantly used, and in no way a threat to my own patriotic virtue as a white person. Okay, I just wanted to remark on that really quick. For some reason, those comments irked me. Let's wrap up the trailer.
You cannot tell the story of America without telling the story of Black America. We are the story of America. This is the 1619 Project.
So yeah, not a ton of meat on the bone on that trailer, but it looks promising enough. I'm interested. I'm not connected to the project in any way, nor do I intend for this video to be an in-depth review of the book A New Origin Story, but I will say that I think the essays that Hulu is basing these episodes on were excellent. No, the reason we're going through the basic details of the project and the series is to call out just how disingenuous a lot of these right-wing criticisms are. Like, take this next little clip, for example. Shapiro is going to give us a quote from Nikole Hannah-Jones regarding the project, and we'll pause to consider our thoughts before comparing my understanding of the quote with Shapiro's.
Apparently, Hannah-Jones says the legacy of slavery is shaping the lives of our children, the society in which they live, whether we teach them about it or not. Black children specifically do not have the luxury of being shielded from racism, this history, and its impacts. I have too much respect for children to believe they should be lied to, even if that is a lie by omission.
Well, that sounds right on the money to me, minus his grating voice and dismissive inflections. Black children, generally speaking, do not have the luxury of being shielded from racism or from the impacts of a national history replete with subjugation, discrimination, and inequality. And I absolutely agree. It's our responsibility to teach children the truth of our history. To do otherwise is dishonest and dangerous, as lies only serve to leave our young people ill equipped to avoid the missteps of our forebears. And it's not about teaching kids that their country is evil or irredeemably bad. It's about teaching them that their country is not, nor has it ever been perfect, and that it's their responsibility to carry the torch of progress forward. Be proud of your country, of the progress we've made, of the successes we've achieved, but be mindful of our failures and disgraces as well, so that we learn from them, apply corrective action where appropriate, and don't repeat them. So, yeah, all in all, a nice solid quote from Nikole Hannah-Jones. I wonder how Ben Shapiro took it. I wonder how he encouraged his audience to take it. What do you think?
Yes, America's such a racist country that a talentless hack like Nikole Hannah-Jones can earn millions of dollars for writing complete fiction about American history and having it telescoped into a series from Hulu. What a racist, horrifying country this is when people like Nikole Hannah-Jones can make a lot of money.
Ah, so disrespectful and disingenuous. Yes, black people can get rich. No, inequality is not solved. He knows that. He's playing stupid for his audience. Read from any of his self indulgent books, and you'll find that he's very much capable of understanding and indeed leveraging complex concepts to make his own points. But he's perfectly fine playing dumb to manufacture a grievance against the woke boogeyman. Disingenuous. Now, there are a wealth of clips and interviews just lambasting the 1619 Project in all its forms, and sadly, I have sat through just about every single one at this point. But honestly, it's mostly just rehashing the same arguments. The most common right wing complaints I've seen about the project are as follows. 1. The project places the retention of chattel slavery as the primary motivator for the American Revolution. 2. The project seeks to delegitimize the year 1776 and frame the year 1619 as its replacement national birth year. 3. The project claims that America is irredeemably racist and beyond repair, a nation to be ashamed of rather than proud of. And 4. The project places Black Americans as superior to other demographic groups. Now, I listed number 1 as such because it definitely has the most merit. Or rather, it did until the New York Times worked closely with the academic community to amend some of the language used in the project. Here's an excerpt from A New Origin Story in which Nikole Hannah-Jones explains this situation further for us. They especially did not like a paragraph I wrote about the motivations of the colonists who declared independence from Britain. Quote, conveniently left out of our founding mythology, that paragraph began, is the fact that one of the primary reasons the colonists decided to declare their independence from Britain was because they wanted to protect the institution of slavery. Later, in response to other scholars who believed we hadn't been specific enough, and to clarify that this sentence had never been meant to imply that every single colonist shared this motivation, we changed the sentence to read, some of the colonists. But that mattered little to some of our critics. The linking of slavery and the American Revolution directly challenged the cornerstone of national identity embedded in our public history. The narratives taught to us in elementary schools, museums, and memorials, Hollywood movies, and in many scholarly works as well. The assertions about the role slavery played in the American Revolution shocked many of our readers. But these assertions came directly from academic historians who had been making this argument for decades. Plainly, the historical ideas and arguments in the 1619 Project were not new. We based them on the wealth of scholarship that has redefined the field of American history since at least the 1960s. And for some final thoughts on that item, here's a clip from a PBS interview with Nikole Hannah-Jones.
So, for instance, if we say Americans love pizza, no one assumes that we mean every single American loves pizza. And so when I said colonists, I wasn't arguing that every single colonist had slavery as a motivation. But when scholars pushed back on that, then we amended it because I think that's what a journalist should do. I think that only strengthens the project.
Okay, next on the list, this ridiculous idea that the project actually aims to replace 1776 with 1619 as the founding year of the country. You'll hear this from everyone from Ben Shapiro in the Daily Wire to Tucker Carlson in Fox News to PragerU to the Heritage Foundation. Observe.
Its thesis. The United States was founded in 1619 when the first slave was brought to North America. Wait, that brings up some questions. What happened to 1776? To July 4th? The Declaration of Independence?
And one from the Heritage Foundation.
There are those who claim America's true founding was in the year 1619, when African slaves were forced across the Middle Passage to come to the New World. They claim that America is rooted in oppression and racism. These are the claims of the 1619 Project. But the true founding of America happened in 1776.
And oh look, one from Ben Shapiro.
It's not presented as a corrective. It's presented as a replacement of that history. Not that 1619 is something we should look at seriously and recognize the evil side of American history. No, instead, 1619 is the true founding of America, according to the 1619 Project.
Yeah, I simply refuse to believe any of these people actually think this is a real issue. The Declaration of Independence is our founding document, and thus 1776 is unquestionably the official start date of the United States of America. But just like we learned that Columbus sailed in 1492, there are other significant foundational moments throughout our history that are worthy of acknowledgement and research. Obviously. Okay, numbers 3 and 4 on the list are definitely the most volatile to discuss because they're all about perception rather than empiricism. As you might expect, I do disagree with both claims. First of all, teaching children about the shames of our past doesn't mean we can't also be proud of where we came from and optimistic about where we're going. Let's teach them that the world is full of nuance, that there are few, if any, simple answers, and that it is their responsibility to continue building a better society. And teaching kids history from a black perspective is not the same as racial favoritism or whatever these people are really afraid of. We're still learning the history of a predominantly white nation. 10 of our first 12 presidents were white slave owners, and 45 of 46 total have been white men. Learning more about American history from the perspective of African Americans who have been so integral to our culture and society as a whole just makes sense, and it's certainly nothing to be afraid of. It's intellectual curiosity and integrity, because African American history is American history. All right, check out this clip from Ben Shapiro in which he outlines a surprisingly reasonable framework for a perspective on American history before claiming, erroneously in my opinion, that the 1619 Project disagrees with that perspective.
If you want to correct American history, it doesn't require you to overthrow the idea that America has a founding philosophy that is good, or a culture of rights, or a history that we're all supposed to share together, including the dark spots, and that we should feel horrible about parts of American history, and that some people in America have ancestors who were victimized by other people in America. But that's not the goal of the 1619 Project. The goal of the 1619 Project is to say that America was dirty from the beginning and remains dirty today.
So the last bit is where I think Ben Shapiro is being disingenuous. I've read the project, so has he, and it's clear to me that his vested interest in raging against the woke left has poisoned his perspective on it. The claims and arguments made throughout the project are based on primary sources and analysis from some of the best academic minds in the country. It's not some hyper-woke volley in the culture war. It's a credible and well-researched and oftentimes difficult examination of American history. Let's read from Hannah-Jones' introductory essay in A New Origin Story and let her explain the project's intent and scope for us. Quote, "Our myths have not served us well. We are the most unequal of the Western democracies. We incarcerate our citizens at the highest rates. We suffer the greatest income inequality. Americans' lifespans are shorter than those of the people in the nations we compare ourselves to. The 1619 Project seeks to explain this present-day reality and challenge these myths, not to tear us down or further divide this country, as some critics suggest, but so that we can truly become the country we already claim to be. Whether we grapple with these ugly truths or not, they affect us still. The 1619 Project is not the only origin story of this country. There must be many. But it is one that helps us fundamentally understand the nation's persistent inequalities in ways the more familiar origin story cannot. With this project, we work toward a country that, in the words of Frederick Douglass, shall not brand the Declaration of Independence as a lie. If we are a truly great nation, the truth cannot destroy us. On the contrary, facing the truth liberates us to build the society we wish to be." Unquote. Now, to bring this little discussion to a close, I'll give my final thoughts on the project itself and the upcoming series. You know, when I started putting together my outline for this video, I hadn't fully read the 1619 Project and had no pressing plans to do so. Let me reiterate, I'm definitely not connected to this project, and it's not like anybody would bother paying me to have an opinion. I was doing this because I could tell how disingenuous Ben was being with his disrespectful remarks. And I started out content to simply point out his dishonest attitude. But the more I researched, the clearer it became that to properly make this video, I needed to be more well versed in the project than I could get from interviews and excerpts alone. And now that I've read the book, I'm very glad that I did. I'm comfortable and confident recommending that you do so as well. The 1619 Project is an excellent piece of historical work, filled with profound essays, poignant stories, and emotionally stirring poems. And this isn't history with a woke agenda, it's history from a perspective, an additional volume to the library of our nation's history, not some all encompassing replacement for the wealth of scholarly work that came before. And I'm even more confident than ever in telling you how disingenuous Shapiro and these other conservative talkers are being with their vitriolic criticism of the project. And you heard him, it's not just disingenuous, it's dismissive and insulting and belittling. And the portfolio of work that went into this project from renowned historians and journalists and academics, well, it deserves a hell of a lot more respect than that, as does Nikole Hannah-Jones herself. I'm looking forward to checking out the Hulu series. If it's half as good as the essays it's based on, it will be an informative and powerful experience. And with that, folks, I'll wrap things up. If you stuck with me this long, I really appreciate it. If you liked this content and want to see more like it, please leave a like on the video. Leave me some of your thoughts and feedback in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. You'll make my day. Thanks again for coming by. I really appreciate it. I hope I see y'all again soon. Peace out.